Hi everybody. In this discussion, we are going to see how virtual machines are like what are the benefits of virtual machines, and then what are the uh, cons that are there in a virtual machine, and then we will look at a different model which allow us to overcome those challenges in virtual machines. So let's get started. In the previous discussion, we looked at how virtual machines work and how it uses hypervisors, for that matter, to have a server level virtualization. So essentially, a virtual machine is an operating system that shares the physical resources of one server. It is a guest on the host hardware. So as we saw in the previous discussion, we had a guest operating system sitting on top of each of the virtual machines in the physical server. So it's also called the guest machine in that sense. Now there are several layers that make up a virtual machine, and of course we saw that the layer that enables the virtualization is called the hypervisor, and everything necessary to run an app is contained within the virtual machine. The virtualized hardware, an operating system which is the guest operating system, and any required binaries and libraries. So all the different libraries, which is the DLL files and other binaries, need to be installed in the virtual machine which will actually host the apps. And therefore virtual machines have their own infrastructure and are self-contained. And so each different app installed in a virtual machine is isolated from the other app installed in the other virtual machine. Okay? And also each virtual machine is completely isolated from the host operating system, and that, mind you, is made possible through the hypervisor. However, again, each virtual machine requires its own OS, which may or may not be the same as the host operating system. In terms of the pros or benefits of virtual machines, a virtual machine reduces expenses. Instead of running an application on a single server, a virtual machine enables utilizing one physical resource to do the job of many. Instead of running an application on a single server, a virtual machine enables utilizing one physical resource to do the job of many servers, and therefore we don't need to have to buy a numerous amount of servers in that case. Now, because there is one host machine, it allows us to efficiently manage all the virtual environments with the help of the hypervisor. And these systems are entirely separate or isolated from each other, which means that they are essentially multiple system environments. So what are the cons here? Now, virtual machines may take up a lot of system resources though of the host machine, because they may be GBs inside because of the guest operating system. Running a single app on a virtual machine means running a copy of an operating system as well as a virtual copy of all the hardware required for the system to run. So I repeat, running a single app on a virtual server means running a copy of an operating system as well as a virtual copy of all the hardware required for the system to run. And this very quickly adds up to a lot of the CPU and RAM cycles. The process of relocating an app running on a virtual machine can also be complicated, as it's always attached to the operating system. Hence, you may have to migrate the app as well as the OS with it. So it may so happen that an app is needed to migrate it to a different virtual machine. So in that case, it may pose some challenges because of the attachment to the host operating system. Also, when creating a virtual machine, the hypervisor allocates hardware resources dedicated to the VM. A virtual machine rarely uses all the resources available, and that makes it the planning and distribution very difficult. However, again, please consider that all this is still economical compared to running separate actual servers. But it's still not the optimum way of doing it, because there is a lot of resources going wasted. Now let's understand a different model. Now consider an environment that runs an application which is not dependent on the operating system. On the other hand, consider that what this means. The removal of the dependency of the operating system on the operating system means that this isolates the app from the host by virtualizing it. And this allows users to create multiple workloads on a single OS instance. So, if you imagine a virtual machine is having all its resources coupled with the guest operating system, and then again to the host operating system, which is being interfaced by the hypervisor. However, in a container, this model I just talked about is nothing but the container. Okay, so in a container model, what we are saying essentially is that there is no dependency on the operating system, on the host operating system. Means that the app is isolated from the host by virtualizing it. So there is almost no guest operating system here, and hence there is only a single operating system instance, which is the host operating system, and all the resources of the operating system, of the host operating system, are being shared across the different containers. And thus we can actually go ahead and create multiple workloads on a single OS instance. Now this is essentially nothing but virtualization of the operating system instead of virtualizing the server itself. Virtual machine is server level virtualization, whereas containers are operating system level virtualization.